Welcome back to Comic Book History, episode number 47. Yes, this is something I wanted to do. I was thinking of doing it today, but I figured though, why the heck not? This one discussing a character that I have discussed previously in the comic book corner. This is Nova. Nova's not the Sam Alexander Nova. He's the current Nova. I'm talking about the original Nova, Richard Ryder. A man who made his debut back in 1976 in Nova number 1, created by, and this will be an eyebrow raising because when people think of this guy, this creator, people don't think of, now people have heard of Richard Ryder, yes, but this is a character that people don't usually associate with this particular comic creator, namely Marv Wolfman. Yep, Marv Wolfman. He is one of several characters he created in Marvel Comics. I mean, what's the number one character people think of when they think of Marvel at Marvel Comics? Blade. Yes, people think of Blade. And a lot of the time, he is like the only character people think of that was created by Marvel when he was working in Marvel Comics. This is one of several characters who created Marvel Comics. I mean, not only created Richard Ryder, aka Nova, he also created Bullseye. Yes, one of the greatest villains Daredevil has ever faced off. The assassin Bullseye is a Marv Wolfman creation. Yeah, he created it during his very brief run on Daredevil. Yes, that's not a joke. He created Bullseye. And yet, Marvel half the time doesn't acknowledge the fact he created Bullseye. I mean, they'll acknowledge the fact he created Blade, but would they acknowledge sometimes basically he created Bullseye or even Richard Ryder? Nope. Excuse me. Now, he was also created by John Romita Sr. Yes. Now, the character was simply you might think of like if you read the original book, which was 25 issues, which in the 70s, not much to sneeze at when it comes to that. That's actually not bad for the 70s. Though it was canceled due to, you've heard this phrase before, low sales. Yes, the most popular reason why a book gets canceled, low sales. Yes. The book basically is plot threads containing the pages of Fantastic Four and an issue of ROM, which you won't see ROM in trade paperback form. You will see Fantastic Four issues in trade form, but not ROM. The reason? IDW owns ROM now. And Marvel has a loan license in the 80s. Yep. Now, Richard Ryder Nova. Now, he himself, unlike Peter Parker, he, of course, lives with actual happily parents. He did have an uncle. Now, he actually has met Spider-Man. Yes, he met him during a 2-part crossover with Amazing Spider-Man. That happened in issue 12 of the title. He is halfway through the original run. He met Spider-Man, which, from what I can tell, I think it was the first actual superhero he actually met. He met other superheroes over the years, but Spider-Man was his first noteworthy one. He also fought many, many villains. And his villains are so obscure. Like, if you think of his villains, you're like, really? These are his villains. Okay, his villains are Blackout, Condor, Corruptor, Diamond Head, Eagle, Living Planet. Really? He fought Eagle? Yeah, he did. The Kree, Atlantis 3, the Mindless Ones, who are Doctor Strange villains. The Phalanx, that was their Annihilation Conquest crossover, which I'll get to that. Powerhouse, the Skrull, the Sphinx, and Titus. Yes, frickin' Titus. Yes, he's a frickin' Skrull. Who actually is not enemy of his, actually the second Nova. Yes. Now, a lot of these characters are so obscure. Like, I know of these characters. I have read his original run. Next part, thinking, how did I read his original run? Essential Nova Volume 1. That's how I read it. Surprisingly, this book did not contain Fantastic Four issues or even, surprisingly not the run issues because Marvel doesn't write the character anymore. Yes. And this is not a joke when it comes to this character. Excuse me, yeah. How did Richard Ryder get his powers? Pretty much his backstory of how he got the powers is way similar to that of Green Lantern. He's pretty much people might see him as a Green Lantern ripoff because his backstory is very similar. A man named Dorian Raymond Day, who is also, by the way, he appeared in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Yeah, he was the one who played by the comedian. He was one who's also the guy who arrested Star-Lord previously, so there's that. He in his spaceship, basically, he was dying, so he transferred the Nova Force power that was in his body to Richard Ryder. And if you read the original title, it's simply put like a teenage high schooler in the 70s. Of course, you get when he teamed up with Spider-Man, it was due to the fact his uncle had been murdered. Yeah, who murdered him is quite strange. His uncle was a scientist. He was murdered by his lab assistant because he got jealous of the man's success. I'm not kidding about that. Aside from recurring his villains, apparently toward the end of the title, he decided to form an alliance with his own bad guys in order to find a Nova spaceship. Yes, the Nova spaceship was actually still in the solar system, believe it or not. Yeah, despite the fact the guy died in issue 1, his spaceship was still in the solar system. Where? The frickin' asteroid belt, of course. Yes, he also had a sort of girlfriend by the name of Ginger. Yes, who was primarily his love interest for his original book. Who, for some reason, I'm not really sure why Marvel did this, where apparently by the 90s this woman got married to an abusive husband. Who, I will get to more about that when it comes to him and Richard Ryder. Then, of course, by the end of the book, he went off to space with these guys to form the Champions of Xandar. Which didn't last very long because he wanted to go home, so they stripped him his powers. And this happened back in the late 70s. Actually, early 80s, mind you. Yes, early 80s. This happened like in a one-off issue of Fantastic Four, which was basically, well, Wolfman basically wrapped this up by the early 80s. And after that, he disappeared for several years. Until he returned to the pages of Thor of all books. You are thinking, why would he return to pages of Thor? Well, it was part of the Axe Ventures crossover. The reason why he returned was because he became part of the group known as New Warriors. I'll discuss more about New Warriors in a later video. They did explain how the heck got his powers back. Yeah, apparently, this was explained in issue 1, by the way, which took place prior to Thor 411. How he got his powers back was that Night Thrasher found work at a fast food joint. Yes. Excuse me, because apparently Rich Ryder did not complete his high school degree. I would have thought, though, when he returned to Earth, he would have completed it, but nope, he never did. Which I'm like, really? He didn't? Okay, so he worked fast food. And then, of course, Night Thrasher takes him to the roof of the restaurant and throws him off. And somehow that reactivates his powers. This was 90s for you, and this was Fabian the Seas doing this. Eventually, of course, Nova did get another ongoing series. That got quickly canceled after 18 issues. Yep. Publishing from January 1994 to June 1995. Coming just almost 30 years of the events of the previous series. Excuse me. Yes, and then of course, 4 years later, he got a brand new title. A new ongoing series. That it lasted for 7 issues. And this was written and drawn by Eric Larson. Yes, the creator of Savage Dragon did this title. Which I'm like, wow, Eric Larson did Nova in 1999? I read it. It's actually a pretty dang good title. Shocking, this book got canceled after 7 issues. During the book, Rich Ryder did something completely unexpected. He actually put Ginger, his high school girlfriend's husband, in the frickin' hospital. Yes. And here's the strange thing. After this fight concluded, Ginger was never seen again. Though apparently in the Nova book, apparently he formed a relationship with Namor's cousin Nemertita. Yeah, for some reason this was a couple. This was something to get with, so discuss more about that New Warriors in that video. And then after this book was canceled, he didn't do much of anything for quite a while. He popped up in the awesome event Annihilation. Yes, he popped up in Annihilation Nova miniseries, which was a prequel. It picked up right after Annihilation Prelude 1 show, which led into this miniseries, and pretty much had him where apparently the entire Nova Corps at this point had been wiped out by this thing called the Annihilation Wave. And who was responsible for this? Annihilus, of course. The old Fantastic Four villain, which was like, really? Annihilus was responsible for this? And some people are like, wait, who the heck is Annihilus? And other people are like, he's a Fantastic Four villain. Like, oh, I know who Fantastic Four are. They're awesome. Annihilus, I have no idea who this guy is. He is a Stan Lee character who was not featured in the movies, mind you. Yep. Oh, and by the way, Annihilus, during the event, he killed the original Quasar. Oh, and what was Nova's response for this? Ripping the man's heart out Mortal Kombat style. Yeah, it was an awesome event, and he was the primary main character of the story, which was awesome. And then he got a new ongoing series by the guys who wrote his miniseries, Dan Abbott and Annie Lenning. It was I read it. It actually was a very good ongoing series, lasting 36 issues. I'll get more to the end in a minute. Like, his first arc was him returning to Earth and finding out, well, basically before this, he had been part of the Return Part of New Warriors, which was a reality show for some reason. And then after the conclusion of the volume, he went off to space, deal with annihilation. He comes back. What does he find? His friend, almost all his friends dead, got killed off in Civil War #1, with the exception of Speedball, because he got attacked by the frickin' Thunderbolts when he came back. Because he wasn't registered as a superhero. Yep. Yeah, because Civil Registration Act, excuse me, would basically take a lot of people off. So he briefly fought Iron Man. So he's like, oh, aren't you from the Nova Corps? Like, nah, I'm going back to space because now Legend of Conquest is coming in. Though he would reform Nova Corps on Eagle Living Planet. One of the members just happened to be his brother, Ryder. No joke about that. And thanks to Annihilation Conquest, he did play a big role in it, but not as big as Annihilation. This time, Star-Lord was the star, and this event led to the creation of the Guardians of the Galaxy, the modern incarnation of the group. As for in the case of Nova, he continued on for about a few more years, also participating in the events of War of Kings, Realm of Kings, and of course, he didn't exactly take part in Secret Invasion. He played a role in it, surprisingly. And then 2010 happened. A very odd year for Nova, because at the start of the year, his comic got canceled. He joined the Secret Avengers for a few issues. Yeah, he joined the Secret Avengers, which he quit before the end of the opening story arc. Yeah, he left. Why? Because he had to deal with the Thanos Imperative storyline. Yep, he had to deal with the Thanos Imperative, where he did awesome things in that storyline. And then apparently he died. Yep. He died along with Thanos, Drax, and Star-Lord. And he apparently was dead for about... This particular ending lasted about 2 years. And then, of course, the Guardians mysteriously came back together. At the time, it wasn't really explained at all. Like, Ben is like, oh, we have Star-Lord and Drax alive. Some reason. Yeah, Bendis didn't explain this to the original Sentai, which happened 3 years after this. Where apparently, get this, apparently in the Cancerverse, no one can actually die. Nope. So, Nova sacrificed himself in order to basically save, well, Drax and Star-Lord. Though Thanos got out of the Cancerverse, though apparently he was given the Cosmic Cube for some reason. Yes. Thanos doesn't have a session with the Cosmic Cube as much as the Red Skull does. Somehow, Richard Ryder brought it to space. I'm not sure how, but he did. Also, I forgot to mention during War of Kings, during events of that crossover, apparently Darkhawk was blamed for the death of Leandra, so they brought in the Project Pegasus, and they didn't much about that. He did, of course, also when he was in The Fault, he did find a sort of a time dispatch version of Nemertita, a woman who died in Civil War One, the first issue, and he brought her back, and then did nothing with her afterwards. Yeah, nothing much afterwards. And of course, now Bendis does not take the blame for killing. Now you're probably thinking, wait, did Bendis basically kill off Nova in the original Sentai? No, he just basically kind of revealed exactly what happened to him. He didn't kill him. But here's the thing: Richard Ryder stayed dead for 6 years. Well, that wasn't until Sean Ryan, toward the end of his run for Nova, decided to bring him back. Because apparently Sam Alexander got access to the World Mind. Yeah, because at the start of Annihilation, I forgot to mention this. He apparently got access to the World Mind, got the whole thing downloaded this freaking helmet. He did also mention basically that he was originally against this at first because the last person just became Supernova, an evil bad guy. And of course, Worldmind does know about that. But basically, he would be in control, though that's the way that is. And then he came back at the end of the Nova title, which for some reason Marvel decided to hit the restart button with for no apparent reason. And then we have sort of a team-up title between the two Novas. It lasted for 7 issues. And then the book got canceled. Wow. You actually did something fans asking for years by bringing back the original because some people didn't like Sam Alexander, so you canceled the title. No joke about that. So, what did he do after that? Well, he popped up in Champions. He popped up occasionally all over the place. His most recent appearance was actually in Al Ewing's Guardians of the Galaxy. He hasn't done that much. He's only been brought back 4 years. He's brought back. He did play a small part in Empire. Mostly he's playing small parts here and there. Mostly, but his role is taken up by Sam Alexander, who's only been around for 8 years, while he's been around for 34 years. Though he's most likely taking a backseat to what's been going on in the Marvel Universe. Because apparently Marvel has no idea what to do with the character. Nope. No series for him. Nothing. Excuse me. Yes, for some reason Marvel just doesn't care to do anything with this character. I like the fact Al Ewing's doing something with him. Oh yeah, and also it was implied he was going to be part of the Danny Cotis run for Guardians, which didn't go anywhere because he was associated with them. He didn't officially join the group. I kind of wish he did because it would have been something. But nope, nothing. Absolutely freaking nothing. And that's the history of basically Richard Ryder, the original Nova. I know this is kind of short, but basically what I discussed, that's a lot of basically history. The only reason why there's some stuff I didn't talk about, mainly because it's deal with New Warriors. I will discuss that in a later video. Now, the Richard Ryder Nova is one of my favorite characters. Simply because he's an awesome superhero, and the fact his original look did change slightly from his original debut. Yes, though his costume mostly... Now here's the thing. Unlike Green Lantern, who gets his power from his ring, Richard Ryder, aka Nova, gets it from his freaking helmet. By the way, he actually shares a nickname with Darkhawk. What nickname is that? Buckethead. Because the helmet is shaped like a freaking bucket. The color of the helmet has never changed over the years. It's always been yellow. Sometimes it's depicted as collapsible. Yeah, I have no idea why this is. It's kind of weird when it comes to Nova. Sometimes they would weirdly change the helmet sometimes for absolutely no reason at all. I mean, I'm looking at basically now his original design was simply like, okay, yellow gloves, like yellow in the like arms, like mostly like blue with like 3 symbols like Brainiac. Blue pants. This was his look for a long time. Yeah. I mean, they didn't update his look until, like, the mid-2000s, where it looks more like armor than freaking tights. Which, fine, whatever. But I kind of wish they would have done something more with this character. I mean, he, of course, is a great character. And I kind of wish Marvel would do something more. Like, here's a couple of suggestions. 1, put him on a freaking team like Guardians of the Galaxy. Or, give his own solo book again. Because people love this character. I mean, who would write him? Well, Dan Abnett can't do it because he's over at DC. So is Andy Lanning. Okay. Who would I pick? There's a couple of writers I would definitely pick. I would pick Al Ewing. I would pick Gary Duggan because he has experience writing Nova. I would also pick... Let's see. Danny Cotis, Al Ewing, Gary Duggan. Who else would I pick to write Nova? Let's see. Who else would be a good choice? Let's see. I don't think Dan Slott would be a good choice because, as far as I can tell, he doesn't have much history. I mean, his most history with Cosmics, that was mostly dealing with the Empire stuff. That was his first Cosmic thing he did. So I wouldn't give him Nova. He could get Nova because he did write Silver Surfer. So Dan Slott might be a good choice. The artist, well, there's a few different people I would choose. Like, maybe they could bring in the artist from Nova Volume 4. Bring him back. Because he was actually a really good artist, by the way. or maybe the artist who drew like the Guardians of the Galaxy books, they might be good. But it's up to anybody basically to write this book. To write, let's say, Nova. Just do something with this character, because since he's been back, he has done very little. Oh my gosh, there's so little the fact that this man has done. Yep. But yeah, that's particularly it for this particular review, or at least for a video anyways. Episode 48, I will be discussing the Sam Alexander Nova, though there isn't a lot to talk about when it comes to Sam Alexander. Probably not as much as, let's say, Richard Ryder, who's got a 34-year history with him, while Sam Alexander's been around for the past 8 years. Yes. Though a lot of people wish that he was animation, or at least for at some point outside the comics, like in some TV show. But it's kind of strange, though. As popular as this character is, I mean, he's only appeared in like a couple of TV shows. He appeared in the Silver Surfer TV show as a cameo, and he also appeared in an episode of the Superhero Squad show. He also appeared in a few video games, but that's it. Now, I've also heard about a Rich Ryder movie. I think this would be fantastic. I also think he would go for a Disney Plus series. It's up in the air who I would choose, but I would choose somebody who looks like a freaking teenager, mainly because the fact that, well, the thing is, Richard Ryder started out as a teenage superhero, like Spider-Man. You could have him be basically, I don't know, maybe a schoolmate of Peter Parker. That may be possible. I mean, he's from, let's see. He's from New York, so I don't think it's he could basically, like, as he was saying, in a small town, you could basically have him from one of the small towns in New York. Heck, you could have him based in New Rochelle, my dad's hometown. That would be nice. But it's up to tomorrow, basically, where they have the movie. Okay, so until this next video, bye.